So welcome everyone to the December 2025 edition of our town hall. As we always do, especially for larger meetings, we start with a land acknowledgement. The Saskatchewan Workers' Compensation Board acknowledges that its Regina and office locations are on the ancestral lands and traditional territories of the Nehewak, the Saulteaux, the Dene, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect Treaty 4 and Treaty 6 that were made on these lands, and that we are committed to moving forward in partnership with Indigenous nations in the spirit of true reconciliation and collaboration. So with that, welcome everyone. Appreciate you taking the time to join us. We'll now look at the agenda here. So for today, this quarterly town hall is going to provide you with lots of great updates and hopefully connect some dots for everyone, get some questions answered that you might have, or you might learn hopefully something new. We have, for many of you, you would have met Darci Lang. We have an exceptional homegrown speaker here that Darci provides a very powerful, energetic, and passionate message that I think resonates with anybody, regardless of what your role is, what your situation in life is. It's great. So appreciate having Darci along with us again. During today's sessions, our speakers are going to provide you with a lot of updates, a variety of corporate and business updates. These updates are just simply, I want to make sure everyone understands, they're simply a reflection of all the great work done across the whole organization. There's not one of us that can have the success that we've had this year alone. This is not attributable to one person, one group, one team. It's all of us working together, and we really, really appreciate the fact that WCB really is a team. And while we don't have enough time to provide an overview of every great project and every success story that we've had across WCB in 2025, please know that we genuinely acknowledge and appreciate all the work that's done from a daily basis to serve our customers, to all that great work that's done on every project, big or small, across WCB. The high-level plan for this town hall today is here on this slide. With that in mind, let's get underway here. And our first stop on the agenda is I want to take a moment for all of you virtually, for those that may have not met, our newest member of the executive team, Sophie Ferry. Sophie joined the WCB in April of 2023 as our chief legal counsel, and is now the WCB's chief legal officer, with responsibilities for policy, for legal, for corporate services, which includes procurement and medical accounts. Sophie brings a wealth of experience and knowledge to the organization, and we are so pleased to have her as part of our leadership team. But I'd like to hand the virtual mic, so to speak, over to Sophie and give her a few minutes here, a few seconds, just to tell everyone a bit about herself. So over to you, Sophie.
Thanks, Phil. All right, so I guess, yeah, I'm Sophie. I've been here since April of 2023. I've been a lawyer since 2014. Yeah, 2014. Prior to that, I had a career in government. So I was a bit older going into law school, and I've spent most of my legal career working for the provincial government, at the legislature, SAS Power, and now here at WCB. And I'm really excited to have joined the executive team and to broaden my knowledge of WCB in general, and learn to meet new people and learn the new functions of my division. So excited to be here, and thanks for the introduction, Phil. All right, so I just wanted to do a quick moment on safety over the holidays. One of the items to think about is preventing fire hazards. So thinking about electrical decoration safety, candle fire risks, Christmas tree care, keeping it nice and hydrated, and fire prevention while cooking, never leaving anything unattended or near flammable items. The other holiday tip I wanted to chat about, if I can go to the next slide, was responsible consumption of alcohol. So make sure you plan a safe ride home, whether that's a taxi, ride sharing, driver services, or using a designated driver. I also wanted to remind people of hosting responsible parties, so offering non-alcoholic beverages and helping people make arrangements for safe transportation. I also threw in a link for Operation Red Nose, which is a program that SGI runs over the holiday season, where they will drive you home in your vehicle, which it's not every day of the week, but if you click on that link, it takes you to their calendar for which days the service is available. So, and I believe the proceeds all go to programming of some sort. I can't remember, but it's on the website. So next slide, please. Yeah, and then the last thing I want to talk about is just maintaining mental well-being over the holiday season. I've linked a couple of what I thought were really good resources from the Canadian Mental Health Association, as well as the BC Mental Health Service, with some additional details on the tips. But keep in mind evaluating your family dynamics and your coping strategies, managing your financial stress, focusing on wellness basics, like getting appropriate exercise and eating in moderation, that sort of thing. Making plans in advance for managing your mental health if you're going to have tricky holiday dynamics. Practice acceptance and set boundaries with social media. So that's my safety share for this December.
So again, thank you, Sophie, for the safety share. That was excellent information to share. And one last little reminder, please note extension cords and power bars are indoor or outdoor, not interchangeable. So keep an eye on which ones you're using. Quick walkthrough, as Phil said, on some of our safety stats up to basically the end of November for 2025. Starting in the upper left-hand corner, an update on our accepted WCB claims related to our staff injuries. We've unfortunately had 14 staff injuries up to the end of November. Luckily, only 4 of them have been time loss, but 10 of them were not, but still way more than we would like. Historically, our trend has been 10, and our average is 10 because it has been 10 for the last 5 years. But our target has been 8, as our goal is, related to mission 0. We'd like that number to be 0, but unfortunately, it is trending higher than where we would like. So we are doing some analysis of the various breakdowns of what are they broken from in terms of what are the categories and what are the types and things that we can work on in 2026. On the right-hand side is related to those total hazards identified. So again, this is all the hazards that have been submitted each month, broken out. We are trending down from what our goal would be for the year in terms of hazards being submitted, because they are a very proactive way to kind of get on top of things before there is an incident or an injury. When we are trending down, last year was down as well. So we would like to remind people that hazards are a great way to be proactive and to submit something before it potentially turns into an incident. So again, in the month of November, we were quite low, and we hope to see that trending upwards again in the future. Then relates to hazards controlled in the bottom left-hand corner, and this is hazards that have been submitted and having them all completed and controlled and dealt with by the end of the month. Again, lower than we would like to see. So again, it's a reminder to everybody that when you do get a hazard submitted, you make it a priority to get it resolved and controlled as soon as possible. And again, we did have a good month in October, so 100%. So congratulations to everybody there. But then we were back down in the month of November. So again, remember to keep hazards, dealing with them, a priority. And then finally, in the bottom right-hand corner is traffic to safety shares. And again, this is employees viewing all of the safety shares through our SharePoint site. We've been doing fabulous this year for the first 10 months. We were meeting and exceeding our goals, and everyone seemed to be very happy with them, looking at them. And then suddenly November happened and it dropped dramatically. So we would highly encourage employees to take a look at the SharePoint site, find the safety shares similar to what Sophie has talked about there. There's lots of great advice there and a bit of a catalog of them. And again, a reminder to leaders that ideally we'd like you to share them with those folks, use them in your team meetings, as they are important things. And there are a number of them right now related to the season that are good knowledge for everybody. So just a quick walkthrough of our safety data to the end of November. And now I think I'm handing it back to Phil, who's going to talk a little about reflecting on 2025. So Phil, back to you.
Yeah, thanks for the update, Dave. And for sure, 2026, I think an even more stronger focus on staff health and safety and see if we can improve those numbers for the betterment of everyone. So, just reflecting so far on 2025, the way I think about it, it's been one heck of a year for many different reasons. It has been extremely busy, and as per normal, we've encountered lots of challenges, but at the same time, we have so many successes to be proud of collectively across the organization. And we really should be proud of our collective efforts that WCB, that's led WCB to have the lowest injury rates in our history. Time loss down from 3.91 to potentially 3.59. That's what we're estimating right now. That's total injury. Time loss down from 1.72 to 1.59%. Our staff engagement scores have been increasing steadily. And while they're not where we would like them to be from an executive's perspective, they are improving. And those improvements are really a reflection of efforts at all levels, in all departments across the organization. Creating that good environment where people can come and to the best of their ability and enjoy the work they do, enjoy the environment they're working in, enjoy the people they're working with. And I just really sincerely appreciate all the efforts of management and staff and the union in trying to create that safe and respectful work environment where people can be successful. And as we head into 2026, we will announce, and we've recently announced, the second lowest premium rate in the country. Our premium rate, and it will be the second lowest in Canada in 2026. And our customer feedback and customer rating is trending upwards. And we've launched phase 1 of our core solution. These are all huge accomplishments that cannot be achieved by, like I said, any one individual, any one group. It's really the collective that have allowed us to achieve unprecedented results, both operationally and strategically. And all of that has led to a lot of national and international recognition for us. We've got many VPs and directors who have been nominated and appointed to committees on the American Association of State Compensation Funds. Our Sapiens partner provided us the Partner Award of the Year in 2025. Kevin was voted as president of the International Social Security Association's World Mining Prevention Section. He was nominated and voted in. And for some strange reason, the International Association of Industrial Boards and Accidents nominated and appointed me as president of their association for the next year. This only comes from all the work that you're doing. At the end of the day, different organizations reflect on what we're doing here in Saskatchewan, and they see the success that they're having, and they want to learn from us, and we want to learn from them. But this is really a collective effort. All these awards and accolades that we've been receiving over the last 12 months, and I sincerely appreciate and thank all of you for helping us get to where we got in 2025. It's been, like I said, one heck of a year. And yes, we've had challenges, but boy, oh boy, have we also had a lot of successes. So thank you all sincerely. And to learn more about this historic business transformation that we've been on and going live with phase 1, I'm going to turn it over to Stuart, who's our business transformation guy, who can provide us a little bit more on the journey that we've been on in 2025 and this historic point we got to in 2025 with our business transformation program. Stuart?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. And good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, so I think Phil summed it up pretty well in 2 seconds, what I'll probably take a few minutes to say, but it was one heck of a year. And from a phase 1 perspective, obviously last week marked probably the most significant milestone in our business transformation to this point. And a huge amount of kudos that I'll get into here in a second for everybody in the organization, because it was a one team effort. We're almost 2 weeks now since go live. It's hard to believe, actually. Overall, I'd say, the transition has gone really well, and that really is down to everybody. It was a huge collaborative effort across the organization. As Phil mentioned, we're one team, and for all the reasons Phil mentioned, and for all the things that we saw through the program, we're showing that every day, and now more than ever. The cutover period that we talked about a lot a couple of weeks ago ran from that Thursday to the Monday morning when we went live. It was a huge lift, and there were so many staff, colleagues of everybody here, leaders and staff, working really long hours to make sure that everything was ready. And I would say, by Sunday night when the executive got together to make a decision on whether or not we were ready to go live, that decision was relatively easy. And we were ready. And it was only down to all of that diligence and that validation that occurred over the previous, 4 days, 100 hours, whatever it was. It was a huge effort, and it was a cross-functional WCB effort, and it was amazing to see that do so well. And it wasn't just the project. There were staff whose systems were unavailable due to the cutover on that Thursday and Friday. Spent a lot of time catching up on that work that still came in those days, the following week. So a huge thank you to everybody for maintaining the service that, as well as you did. And thanks for your flexibility as we were kind of getting ready for this. Since Go Live itself, I'll touch on a few things here. VPs have spent, some time most days walking the floors and talking to the teams that were impacted by phase one. And I'll give you a quick kind of snapshot of what we've been hearing. I think fair to say that staff are now beginning to hit some more defects than maybe they did in the first few days, but at the same time, staff feeling really positive about the new system, and definitely, I think, really supportive of the fact that we went live when we did with phase one. Yes, there's some workarounds. Some of them are clunky for sure, but people are definitely adapting and doing so relatively quickly. Already, some staff indicating that some of the processes feel a bit easier already, a bit more efficient. And definitely some belief and some optimism about how the system will continue to get just better over time based on some of these early experiences. Also hearing, from the IT senior leaders about how engaged the teams, within the IT portfolio is, the BI teams as well, really digging in every day, learning more about the new system and figuring out some of the answers to some of the problems that we're dealing with. A couple of people even mentioned that it was anticlimactic because things went so smoothly, and pretty sure meant that in a good way, and it's really what we hoped for. So that was really, really cool to hear. I think the biggest challenge right now is probably about familiarity, with the system, with the new system, getting comfortable with it, and getting comfortable with some of those workarounds. But that'll come. It'll just take some time. I'll say, personally, in closing, I think it's a case of so far so good. We knew that the go live would bring challenges and that there'd be some turbulence in the first couple of months. But almost 2 weeks later now, the issues that have arisen are all quite manageable, and they are being managed really well. So both sides of that being true. I definitely consider this to be success. I think it reinforces that the decision to go live in December was the right one overall. And I wanted to thank everybody who's worked so hard before that and now after go live to be able to make that statement with a degree of confidence. So thank you again. If you move to the next slide, please, Raquel. So we are in that stabilization period, the hypercare period, as we're calling it, where we look to stabilize the system and fix issues as they come up. Like I touched on, we know that some areas like employer services, they are starting to hit a few more defects and challenges. I think the clearance process is one where there's been a little bit of a concern. We hear you. We're on top of this through IT and the transition operations work stream. We're logging those issues. We're prioritizing them. They will be resolved. There were also a few access issues in the first couple of days on the new digital suite portal. It only impacted a small number of customers, but again was really quickly investigated and resolved by our IT teams. Some other more glitchy elements, I would say, on the portal, but again, nothing that's been significant. There's a current issue came up a couple of days ago, I think maybe the last day or two, about interest calculation through CoreSuite impacting some of the employer accounts. We have it's probably one of the bigger issues, I'd say, that we've encountered, but we have identified a 2-step process to resolve this over a few days, which we believe will fix the problem going forward. And probably the last thing I'll mention before I kind of switch gears is just how staff have shared a little bit about overwhelm, wanting to balance the information that's being shared in some way. We are trying to share updates, and your managers and your supervisors and leaders are trying to share that information with you, but also recognize that at times it can maybe be a little bit overwhelming. So we want to make sure that we give you enough so that it's happening, but not so much that it feels like too much, right? So please just give your managers and supervisors a little more time as we try and find the sweet spot there. You'll see it on the slide here. We have a plan for 3 major releases between now and March 26. We'll fix some of those defects that we went live with, as well as some of the other issues that have arisen since then. We're getting ready to receive the first batch on December 18th. Then we'll get into our own testing and our own validation before we send those fixes into deployment in that kind of mid to late January timeframe. And that's when you'll see some of those workarounds get walked back and the system will really start to show its true value over time. And of course, if and as critical problems come up, we will use that hot fix process, which really is just a more accelerated path to fixing something that's more urgent. And we have used it a couple of times over the last couple of weeks. If you move to the next slide, then quick update from a phase 2 perspective. Phase 2 has been diligently working away through elaboration and release testing, as you can see kind of on the bullets here. The team has also been patiently waiting for phase 1 to go live so that it can get the focus and attention that it really, really deserves. Personally, again, I think it's really important to acknowledge that the experience for phase 2 has probably been a little bit more difficult than we would have wanted or would have hoped. But we are taking some next steps, and I want to reassure all areas of the business that we are paying attention to that. We did make phase 1 the priority. We felt it was important to go live with phase 1, and part of that was because of the impacts that we were seeing to phase 2 in terms of the schedule impacts and the overall morale, I would say, of the team. So it was a driving force for us to go live when we did. But now that we are live, we are starting to shift our focus, shift our attention and energy back to phase 2. But we are looking to do that a little bit more smarter, I guess. We're working to kind of review our lessons learned with our partners like KPMG and Sapiens and Linea, our thinking partners. We want to review those lessons learned from phase 1 and then reset the plan for phase 2. We're looking at everything end to end. How we did elaboration, development, how we structured work packages. Want to get to do some process testing as early as possible. Get better quality assurance throughout the program, looking at some tweaks to governance and making sure that roles and responsibilities for all individuals, all resources within our work streams are crystal clear. We are looking to have kind of a revised plan in the next couple of weeks, hopefully before Christmas. We look to share it with leaders and then start implementing some of those changes. And if there is a shift to the schedule, we'll confirm those details probably sometime later in January. I think just in the interest of time, I'll stop there, and I will just close by thanking everybody for playing your part again, whatever that was, in a really successful year for WCB. Putting the core solution to one side for a second, there's just great work happening around this organization every day. There's great ideas, great initiatives, great support areas, doing great support work, great people on the front line providing great service, and every single person is a vital cog in this WCB machine that's getting recognized, like Phil talked about. We're respected, we're recognized for the important work that we do, and it's a credit to you all, and it's down to you all. So thank you again, and I wish you all a fantastic break over the holiday period and a happy and healthy 2026. And with that, I'll pass it over. Thanks.
Thank you, Stuart. My name is Patrick Ash. I'm Manager of Executive Services. Today, I'm excited to present some key updates to our WCB strategic plan on behalf of our executive team. Before we dive into the details, let's set the stage. In late 2024, our board of directors challenged the executive to rethink our True North metrics and create objectives that would ensure a strong, sustainable WCB for years to come. The executive team worked closely with departments, aligning with existing strategic initiatives and listening to feedback. 2 major updates came out of this process: the introduction of key strategic objectives and the creation of the Enabling Our People strategic initiative pillar. This plan isn't just aspirational, it's actionable, built on measurable objectives, clear initiatives, and a roadmap for continuous improvement and long-term success. Next slide. Our strategic initiatives are the bridge between objectives and measurable outcomes. Every initiative is a lever for measurable impact, both in the short term, like the end of 2026, and the long term, by 2030. Our strategy answers 3 key questions. Number 1, what matters most? Our key strategic objectives define the priorities that guide every decision and action. Number 2, how will we get there? Our strategic initiatives are the focused efforts that turn objectives into action. And number 3, how will we know we're succeeding? Our key strategic metrics associated with each initiative will measure progress and impact over time. Let's talk about what powers our strategy, our strategic initiatives. These aren't just projects, they're focused, high-impact efforts that turn our key strategic objectives into reality. It answers the question, how will we get there? By aligning our people, resources, systems. These initiatives create measurable progress toward our goals. Think of it this way. If our objectives are the destination, strategic initiatives are the roadmap that gets us there step by step with clear accountability and outcomes. So as mentioned, new for 2026, we've added a dedicated pillar. So we have our traditional 3 customer experience, enabling systems, and next generation prevention. And now we've added enabling our people, because we know that enabling and supporting our people is essential to achieving everything else. Previously, this was part of enabling systems, but now it stands on its own to reflect its importance. Together with our other pillars, this update strengthens the foundation for success. This slide provides you with a high-level objective statements within each strategic initiative. Each of our VPs is going to share a few plans and goals for 2026. And while we won't hear the full extent of each initiative, there will be more shared with departments and leaders throughout 2026. So stay tuned for those updates. I'll pass it over to Jennifer and Norlene Beidel to share the focus within the Customer Experience Strategic Initiative. Over to you, Jennifer.
Thanks, Patrick. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to touch on the claims transformation efforts within the customer experience portion here. So 3 key areas of focus for claims transformation next year include continuing to advance our work disability prevention and mitigation strategy, ultimately looking to effectively partner with workers, employers, and healthcare providers to improve return to work outcomes. Secondly, we have our Adjudicate and Manage project. So through this project, we look to improve both the staff and customer experience. Combining adjudication and management creates a more personalized and connected experience with our customers and will allow us to support their recovery and return to work immediately following a work injury. And for staff, training for this work or within this project kicks off in early February. And the last one here, Stuart touched on a little bit related to phase 2 of the core solution project. This is going to be, a significant focus for us throughout 2026 and into 2027, and ultimately will lead to our claim system being replaced. So we're excited about where we are and that we now have the opportunity to kind of shift focus and to dedicate our resources here. And, ultimately with this project, we're looking for operational efficiencies and improvements to the customer experience. We know work will be different as we go forward. And with that, not every process will necessarily gain efficiencies. It's not that every single thing. We will have some trade-offs as we move through the project, but organizationally, we're going to benefit from this fully integrated solution that we'll have. So looking forward to some of these areas and others as we move into 2026. And for now, I'm going to pass it over to Kevin Mooney, our Vice President of Prevention and Employer Services, who's going to continue with a bit more of the focus within his portfolio related to customer experience. Kevin?
Thanks, Jennifer. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. I'll start off with a bit of reflection first here. Very grateful for many things this year. The Employer Advisory Center being one of them. This was our first full year of operation. It's a tough job. Really our goal at the end of the day is that people feel heard, regardless of the outcome. And I think the team's done a really good job there. We've been able to share with employers when they don't have appealable issues and they walk away feeling heard. And we've also helped customers with filing successful appeals. So thank you, Gary, Sherry, and Courtney for the work that you've done there. It will continue to evolve in 2026. Again, Stuart talked about phase 1. After 2+ years of planning, release development, testing, and more testing, we went live on December 1st. I'm really proud of the growth that I saw in many people. Many times it is through a bit of a struggle that we do grow in our career, and I saw a lot of that. And so thank you to Gabe, Sherry, others. I can't name everyone, but we are live and up and running. This lays the foundation for where we will go next. And that is to reach the vision that we've talked about, aligning employer services operations to implement the target operating model. I know that's a mouthful, but again, this is a service delivery model to educate, support, and partner with our customers to help them, to really help improve the system overall. And so that'll come to life in 2026, and it'll become more clear. Part of that is modernizing compliance. And by compliance, I don't mean a hammer and a toolbox. Modernized compliance really does start out with support and education. It only moves to enforcement when those two things have failed. And so we're starting to lay the foundation for that already in 2025. So Dave's team, Premium Audit, we did check-in payroll audits this year. We identified close to 80. We've done 53 so far. And really the goal there was to go back and check on previous audits from 2 years ago. Did the behavior or did the reporting errors change? And you know what? The success rate's like very, very high. Only 4 firms out of 53 repeated the errors. And in all those situations, they had turnover in key personnel. It tells me that education works. It's just how do we crack that nut of trying to educate 50,000 employers at the right time. The second part is an employer compliance assessment. This is a proactive approach. What we did is we took a regular payroll audit, so a traditional audit that we do today, and we kind of experimented with the fact that, you know what, if we're already on site, what would happen if we checked all of the employer obligations under our act at the same time? So there's a bit of safety in there, there's a bit of reporting, there's a bit of claims, there's a bit of payroll audit. And we just finished our first one with a trucking firm. Good results. We're going to do 2 more pilots in the new year. And then try to figure out how do we evolve this into a regular service that we provide to people, and how does this create a development path for interested employees to go down this interesting work, in my opinion. But with that, I know I'm a bit long. I'll turn it over to Trevor.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kevin, and good afternoon, everybody. Enabling our people has always been a key corporate priority and a core element of our Enabling Systems strategic initiative. As Patrick mentioned, with us now calling out Enabling Our People as its own strategic initiative, our intent is to further emphasize the importance of this work, while also reflecting intent to progressively build upon this work as corporate capacity enables. Today I'll highlight just a couple of our key 2026 initiatives. As an organization, we know proactive workforce planning is essential to further enable corporate success and positive employee experience. Our enterprise organizational redesign initiative began with a deep understanding that the business transformation needed to effectively meet evolving customer and employee needs is more than just modernizing our technologies and processes. We also need to ensure that we have the right enabling structure, roles, and staffing levels to enable both business and employee success. Through this multi-year initiative, we will create a refreshed structure that is adaptive and better positioned to meet changing needs both today and into the future. As we create this vision for the future, we'll also create implementation roadmaps and change plans that guide our future transitions. With this initiative, our work with each portfolio will have varying timetables. While some work has already begun with certain portfolios, work in other areas is paused, being very intentional to ensure that this initiative does not negatively impact our core solution initiative and other corporate priorities. We invite you to stay tuned for further updates on this important work and welcome you to check out our new My WCB project site, a new central location for project information. The second key initiative for 2026 is our Culture Initiative. As many will know, this is not a new, but rather a continuing multi-year initiative. There are many things done each year with intent to positively impact employee experience and culture, and each of you contribute to that. This initiative is particularly targeted towards establishing fuller and shared clarity on what good looks like in the organization and working progressively to a state where our values are consistently demonstrated and experienced. During 2025, we were able to advance some actions, including some more focused learning with our leadership team. Some key activities that we had hoped to achieve, though, late this fall are now being planned for early 2026. In early 2026, we intend to formally launch the culture expectation statements that we've been speaking about during the year. We'll reaffirm our corporate values, introduce these statements, and point to some of the things yet to come. This will be followed by the initiation of a 4-module e-learning series with 2 modules planned for 2026. With each of these modules, we'll do a deeper dive into what each of the respective values are and the clarifying statements, as well as point to related supports. In 2026, we expect to launch, as I mentioned, 2 planned modules. We're looking at the spring as well as the fall with an initial focus on our corporate value of respect. In the periods leading up to and following each respective module, we plan to work with and provide related support to leaders and their teams as business capacity allows, and or where there may be a more urgent need. We look forward to sharing more on this in the new year. The last key project that I'll highlight today is our in-scope job evaluation initiative, a joint initiative between the WCB and SGU to create and implement a new job evaluation system and a corresponding compensation structure. While advancing this initiative has definitely taken much longer than any of us had hoped for or anticipated, I am very pleased to confirm that WCB has now received conditional support to proceed from our government partners. We're especially grateful for the support, as in addition to it being required to be able to proceed for a period, we just weren't certain that this was going to be possible. We do, though, have a complication that will further extend our timing, especially with the expiry of our collective agreement at the end of this year. There is an expectation that implementation terms be negotiated in tandem and with successful resolution of bargaining. And given this new development, we do know that both the SGU union as well as WCB do have a shared interest in resolving this round bargaining as quickly as possible, and certainly getting the job evaluation and its associated compensation structure in place. And so to this end, bargaining dates have already been confirmed to start early in this new year. We do sincerely thank you for your patience on this particular initiative. Again, it has been a long time coming, but we do see the end in sight. And just generally, I do want to thank each of you for your ongoing contribution to our organization. And with this, over to George Georgiadis, our Chief Technology Officer, to provide some focus some focus areas with regards to enabling system strategic initiative.
Well, thank you, Trevor. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm George Georgiadis, for the people that I haven't met yet, Chief Technology Officer. Another strategic priority for the organization is to advance data and analytics for the organization. Advanced analytics aims to deliver actionable insight to improve decision making and overall organizational performance. But as you can all possibly have heard, there is some disruptive technology out there called generative artificial intelligence that provides. It's an amazing new tool that will accelerate the development and execution of strategic roadmaps across many organizations and industries, including our own. Advanced analytics is a critical enabler for every strategic objective. It underlines our ability to deliver timely, accurate decisions, improve the financial stewardship, and strengthen prevention efforts. So, being able to leverage generative AI would be a great accomplishment for the organization, a great goal. In 2025, we have initiated 5 projects as well as a strategic governance and artificial intelligence governance to ensure that every initiative we are pursuing, we are properly assessing the risk that it presents to the organization and really being able to manage and mitigate some of the risks before we start an initiative. So in 2025, we started 5 AI projects, and we are expecting that in 2026, we will continue our efforts and potentially pursue other AI projects that they will all aim to build a foundational groundwork of governance and abilities for the future. From an artificial intelligence, when it comes to governance, we are pursuing the options of creating a center of excellence around AI and potentially how we will be able to govern that. It's at the early stages of thinking at this point, and we're really trying to pursue to understand if that type of thinking when it comes to AI is suitable for our organization. That's all I wanted to cover today. Thank you so much for listening. And next up is Dale, our Chief Financial Officer, with other important aspects and goals in the Enabling System Initiative.
Thank you, George. Good afternoon, everyone. The Financial Sustainability Initiative focuses on the sufficiency ratio and the admin cost rate in order to enhance financial sustainability. When I talk about financial sustainability, or I should say when we talk about it, there are 3 priority areas that in order to define sufficient sustainability. The first one is we want to ensure that an injury fund is able to pay for claims and medical costs for a long time into the future. Second, we have to make sure this is all done in an equitable and transparent manner for our current and future employers by ensuring the premium rates are fair and consistent for the services they receive. And finally, we have to continue to fund strategic initiatives in innovation to support our customers and improve the workers' compensation system as a whole. Our legislation requires WCB to remain fully funded at all times. However, the specific level of the injury fund and any use of any reserves is really left up to the discretion of our board. This leads to our first initiative for the upcoming year. It is to develop a targeted sufficiency ratio to ensure we maintain enough money in our injury fund for long-term sustainability of the fund. WCB is in a very strong funded position, and you've heard that a number of times. It is approaching the upper limit of our sufficiency target ratio. This provides WCB with an opportunity to proactively invest in premium rate discounts, strategic initiatives, and innovation to support our customers and improve the workers' compensation system as a whole. This leads to our second initiative, which is to develop and implement a strategic initiative reserve that will help maintain low, stable premium rates while supporting long-term investment that strengthens WCB's operations and services and contributes to the overall sustainability of the compensation system. And finally, I'm passing the baton back to Kevin to cap off this segment with what's planned for Next Generation Prevention Strategic Initiative for 2026.
Thank you, Dale. Welcome back, everyone. I'm excited about 2026. I think a picture tells 1,000 words here, so I put a couple images on here. But the future of WorkSafe Saskatchewan will include safety, health, and well-being. Definitely safety continues our focus on the physical side of injuries. Health will dive into a new frontier related to occupational disease and well-being, of course, while we're just scratching the surface when it comes to psych health and safety and understanding how we can support employers through that. Saskatchewan, I think 2026 is going to be the year for Saskatchewan. I think there's going to be tremendous economic growth. I think there's going to be lots of new people moving to our province as a result. So we've got this new worker program that the team's been working on, again, to get in front of that strategically. There's things we can do, evidence-based approaches to support new workers, new to Canada, new to Saskatchewan, young workers that are new to the workforce. And it really comes down to the 777. So what are we doing to onboard people in the first 7 hours, 7 days, 7 weeks? And so that'll be part of that program. Again, strategically, we're really focused on mining. Mining is the front end of any supply chain. Mining is going to grow in this province. We're pretty much the mining capital of Canada. And so we've got a contractor management program that we're going to be rolling out in 2026, which I do believe with the right support from the mining operators that will be able to positively drive the behavior of probably 20,000 contractors. And I think it's tremendous. We've got the support of the right people, and I can't wait to see what happens there. You'll see a picture there of an OH&S officer. 10% of our employers in Saskatchewan are regulated by federal legislation. We have limited, actually we went for 4 years with no officers based out of Saskatchewan. They would come in from Winnipeg reactively when there was a fatality. We're going to invest in the future. We're going to fund a couple of federal officers to join WorkSafe and help to support those federal employers in 2026. Again, you see a little van there. Again, if we're going to be bold, we're going to be looking at health in a different way. And so looking to partner and develop an occupational disease lab, I should say, that can go out there and provide evidence-based recommendations to employers. And so we'll do that through partnership. To the prevention team, proud of you, proud of the work we're doing. Keep the faith, be brave, be bold as we move into, which is going to be a good year for prevention. And one last thing here is we're going to be hosting an international mining event in Saskatoon in September and host the world. And it's going to be a great event, and planning is well underway. With that, I'll turn it over to, I think, back to Patrick now.
It is my absolute pleasure to introduce Darci Lang. I think many of you have seen, heard, or read Darci. Darci she's a writer. She's done presentations, podcasts, teaching us about transformation, and really is one of those fierce believers that if you can focus on certain things, you can keep moving forward and moving forward in a positive way. We all have ups and downs in our lives. We all have challenges, but Darci brings an amazing message from many different perspectives. She's a leader and an award-winning entrepreneur for over 30 years. She's written 4 books on her philosophy and is a member of the prestigious Canadian Speaking Hall of Fame. Darci is a homegrown success story right here in Regina, and her husband Darren, and with her husband Darren, and is mom to 2 beautiful children and a couple of rescue pets, which is near and dear to my heart. Most of our pets that we've had over the years are rescue pets as well. So please join me in providing Darci with a warm Saskatchewan welcome. Take it away, Darci.
Thank you, Phil, and thank you for your commitment to taking care of everyone. Hello, for those of you who I've met. Hello again. If I haven't met you, I'm Darci Lang. As mentioned in the introduction, I've been a motivational speaker for 32 years, based right here in Regina. I am so blessed to be here in my home office on this snowy, stormy day. So thank you for having me. Here's what we're going to do. I'm with you until 2:55, so 55 minutes. And here's what we're going to do. I'm going to share a message called Focus on the 90%. And it's my belief that we hold this big, giant magnifying glass out in front of us in our lives, and we have a choice what we focus it on. What I call the 90%, which I define as what is good, positive, and most importantly, what you have control over in your life, or do you hold out a 10% magnifying glass and most what isn't good, and most importantly, you have no control over? So in our journey together, I'm going to unpack the entire person because I believe the whole person shows up in every area of your life. Now, one of your core beliefs on your website is that healthy and engaged staff. To have healthy and engaged staff, I think it's the fundamental, most important thing. So in our time, I'm going to ask, what do you focus on first and foremost with the person in the mirror? Then I'm going to ask you to carry that same idea, the magnifying glass idea, to your job. How do you see your WCB job? Then we're going to talk about your coworker relationships, your customer experience, and then I'm going to send you home in your family, personal life. What do you focus on there? So one idea, not 15 ways, just one. If you met me live, you know I would have given you a little mini magnifying glass to take home with you to remind you of your message. And my challenge will be, at the end of this 55 minutes, where do you need that magnifying glass the most? On the person in the mirror? When you get to work? With your coworkers, with your customers, or when you get home? So let's get started. Let's talk about you, the person in the mirror. How can we be healthier? I'll give you the quickest rapid fire backstory. I was born 56 years ago in Bigger, Saskatchewan. Bigger! What the heck? I spoke in Halifax this year. I've spoken in Victoria this year. And everyone knows the sign outside of Bigger. New York is big, but this is bigger. I was born to teenage parents. Both been married 3 times. I have 10 half and sisters. I was raised by my dad in the early 70s and wove in and out of 5 different families. So I had a very colorful childhood. As mentioned, thank you, Phil. In the direction, I've written 4 books, 2 motivational, a woman's book, and a book. And my woman's book, Engage, Embrace the 90%, How to Slay Fear, Defy Your Labels, and Love Yourself, is my trauma story. It was not an easy childhood, I have to tell you. And I don't know what you did with your 10% growing up, but I numbed and I avoided and I drank a lot. I smoked a lot. I drank a ton of coffee. I partied all the time. But then when I was 18 years old, I ran. My dad was a Volkswagen repair shop owner, and he still is 55 years later. So when I was 18 years old, I packed up my perfect and I'm in Alberta, where I was raised by my family, to Winnipeg, Manitoba. I got to Winnipeg, Manitoba, 18 years old, $200 in my pocket, everything I owned in the backseat of my Beetle, and I just ran. I needed a fresh start. My aunt said, get a job, get an apartment, and get off my couch. So I went to the Winnipeg Free Press, opened it, and there was an ad for a tuxedo rental company that said, looking for a young person to measure men all day. I was 18. That sounded amazing. So I went for the interview, filled out an application, got a call back. So when I walked in, the owner said, who are you? And I said, I'm Darci. And he said, that's hilarious. Based on your name and your work experience in your dad's Volkswagen repair shop, we thought you'd be a young man. We don't hire women. And I said, well, Rick, I'm here. And you know, Rick hired me. And for the next 6 years, till I was 24 years old, I worked in an environment with 5 men who'd been in the industry a combined 125 years. The best university I could have ever attended. But most importantly, those men would ask me every day, what can I teach you today? Because you do know knowledge is not power unless you share it, right? What do you say to somebody new coming into WCB? Do you say, this is the greatest job you'll ever have? Or do you say, give it time, you'll end up just like me? So I bought this, so I was able at 24 years old to buy my own store. Can you imagine? I look back at her and I think, what? So I was kind of this functioning person. I drank and smoked and didn't take care of myself, but I was a super high functioning person. But I destroyed myself. I absolutely destroyed myself every day. So when I was 24, I packed up my then K car, moved from Winnipeg to Regina, Saskatchewan, where I live now. Opened my own little tuxedo store, 24 years old. I had a warehouse full of tuxedos, hired 70 people, and then I had a quarter life crisis. I crashed, and I'm so glad I had it at 24. I don't have to have a midlife now, but I crashed. And in my quarter life crisis, I scrambled to try to repair myself. I scrambled to try to heal because I had this huge store and all this stuff and all this product, and I needed to go and live my life. So I called my dad and I blamed him for my terrible childhood. And he said, nice try. Only you can blame you for the mess you're living in. So I did what I knew how to do. I had no money. I went to the library. I cleaned off a shelf of self-help books. I put the books on my table in my tiny little house, and I opened up the first book. It was called Attitude is Your Most Priceless Possession. And it gave me this idea. You hold a magnifying glass out in front of you, and only you get to decide how you view your life. And for some reason, that was divinely sent to me. And it was my opportunity to say, yikes, all I had ever done in my life was play victim and blame. I had literal trauma, and I blamed everyone else for my life. And the self-sabotage I was doing, destroying myself, I blamed other people for that too. So that was a Monday. I read this book and I went to work the next day and I thought, I have nothing to lose. I've got to get it together to run this store. So I picked up a magnifying glass on Tuesday morning and I thought, okay, I'm doing it. I'm going to go out into my world and I'm going to look for what is good and what can I control. And it kind of changed me a little bit that day. And then the next day I left my cigarettes at home and then I didn't drink and I came to work on Wednesday and I just started standing taller and back and I thought, hang on, there's lots of good. And then it started to change me further. Then by Friday, my bank manager asked me a question that would change the course of my life. Downtown Hamilton Street, TD Bank. My bank manager said, you're different. You come into the bank every day and my staff think you're different. What did you do? And I said, Ed, I'm reading this book and I've got this idea and I've just been putting this big pretend magnifying glass in front of me every day and I'm just really digging and scratching for what is good and what can I control, and it's starting to change me. And he said, you know what, everything you own I own anyway, so I want you to come next Friday and speak for free to my team and I want you to share with them that message, just that idea. And I stood in front of Ed's staff 30 years ago, I threw my suit in downtown Regina and I delivered this message. And can you imagine, poof, here I am. And every day since then, I have worked on the woman in the mirror and I have been healing women for the last year. And my mission, purpose, intent is to help you to be healthier. And if I could share this one idea with you that radically changed my life, that's all I ask. Is that you just try this one message and maybe it'll be something that will stick for you. But how do we do it? How do we become positive and see what's good in the world when life is so hard? How do we do it when the world feels like a broken place and some of you deal with a client base that makes you feel down? How do we do it when people have addictions and mental health and the physical health that you deal with and aging parents and marriage problems and money problems and raising children? Oh my gosh, that's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I've done really hard things. How do we do it? I'm going to do that have radically changed the woman in the mirror. The first thing I do is I wake up every morning. I look at the woman in the mirror, the only person I can control in my whole life, and the power it brings your life to understand that in this uncontrollable world, in your uncontrollable family, the only thing you can control is how you treat the person that stares back at you, and that I feel power in being able to do. So every morning I look in the mirror at the only woman I can control, and I ask her one simple question that I didn't learn how to ask at any of the dinner tables I grew up at. How are you doing? And then I rate that woman every morning. For 32 years, I asked the woman in the mirror how you're doing, and then I ask her, how are you feeling? What are you today? Are you a 1, which is not great, a 2, 3, 4, which is or are you a 9, which is amazing? And I go on this self-awareness journey every morning after a beautiful morning routine, and I ask her how you're doing. And if I'm a 1, I pick that up and I look at it and I say, why? Because I have this very strict 3 times complain rule. I actually think complaining is abundantly important because I've grown up in a house and been a part of every imaginable healing modality in the planet. And if you grew up in a family where everybody swept their problems under the carpet, you know you tripped over those problems your entire life. And then I believe that if you don't unearth all these 10%, all the things you need to heal, I think you roll up that carpet and smack it in the middle of your own living room today. I think you didn't heal, your family's tripping over. So I made a commitment to look in the mirror and ask her, what are you, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9? And when I'm a 1, 2, 3, 4, I say, why? I want to go on a self-awareness journey, and I won't look in the mirror more than 3 times feeling tired, bloated, overwhelmed, mentally, physically, or spiritually depleted without saying, why? And after my 3 times complain rule, I have a lay that sucker out meeting. I don't lay out the people around me. That would be awesome. But I lay out the thing that I'm complaining about, the thing that I'm depleted feeling in the mirror, and I lay that out and I say, okay, let's go on a deep dive self-awareness journey of what did you do yesterday? What did you eat? What did you read? What did you watch? Who did you surround yourself with that's making you feel depleted? And is there something that you could do to move the dial a little bit to away from 1 closer to 2 so that you feel better? But part of the reason we don't do these things is because we didn't grow up in a family or grew up with a belief that we were worth it, that you are worthy of the self-awareness. And for 32 years, I've been deepening my knowledge on sleep and exercise and nutrition and mental health and meditation. And I can tell you it has radically changed my life. I could give you a 3-hour seminar in each one of those. But the self-awareness of every morning looking in the mirror and saying, how are you? And then asking the question, what do you need to move the dial today, is one of the done to change the woman in the mirror. But the second thing I've noticed is, and the second thing I do is, I've noticed that no matter how much healing I've done, and I've done like profound amounts of healing. If you look at my desk right now, I have a Himalayan salt lamp and a Tibetan singing bowl. I have this Buddha statue with a rosary around his neck. I don't know how he feels about that, but that's happening. I have stones and crystals and essential oils and a cross and sage and seagrass. And I've spent 32 years healing the woman in the mirror, but I've learned that no matter how much I heal her and how much I unearth, there's still a part of my brain that hijacks me. There's still a 10% of my brain, which I believe now after all this healing is just fear. And this 10% part of my brain that is traumatized and triggered, she still lives with me. And after all these years of healing, I've learned that I'm just going to love her anyway. I thought I could heal her away, but then I learned she's always going to be there because she's just trying to keep me safe. But here's the thing. She doesn't run my life anymore. Because the first 24 years of my life, fear ran my life. And she doesn't run my life anymore. How many of you say, let's do a thumbs up. How many of you would say to me in a thumbs up emoji here, how many would say that when you lay down at night, your brain goes, oh, good, let's worry. Do any of you have this experience? Any give me a thumbs up emoji if you have this experience of laying down at night and your brain goes, oh, let's worry. Okay, perfect. How many of you are part of the 3 a.m. club where you go to bed and your brain wakes you up at 3 o'clock, like, get up, it is time to worry? Okay, well here, if we had our hour and a half to talk about sleep, I would share with you that sleep is sanity and I will not let anything interfere in my sleep. I can do poor nutrition. I can go a couple of days without exercise. I can go a couple of days without quieting my sweet, busy brain, but I cannot go one night on poor sleep without being a completely different human. So I need sleep and I need my brain to work for me. I have lived with somebody with mental health my entire life, my father, my brothers, my husband, and my son. And I can tell you, having a front row seat to mental health, no matter what you do, and you need to do it all, you've got to learn to harness the brain because the brain will sabotage you. So here's what I learned to do. I take out this magnifying glass shaped So after I've engaged in the woman in the mirror, how's she doing? I take out a magnifying glass shaped shepherd's stick. Now, when I wake up in the morning, we'd spend hours talking about daily routines because your daily routine tells me everything about you. But when I wake up in the morning, the second I wake up, my brain goes, oh, just starts. Get up. Oh my God, get up. Hurry up. You have a big day. What are you, lazy? Get out of bed. And my brain just starts. So I create this magnifying glass shaped shepherd stick and I shepherd all the thoughts that are trying to hijack me over. And I say, no. I don't roll over and look at my phone for 45 minutes. We could do that for a long time too. But why would you doom scroll and expect your brain to wake up in a positive way? So then I go into my work, into my home office here, or I travel every single week, spring and fall, across this great country, proudly representing Saskatchewan on national stages. And I can tell you that I wake up and I do all this incredible traveling, and I take my magnifying glass and I look at my thoughts. If I'm on the road, my brain starts hijacking me. If I'm in my home office when I'm not on the road, my brain comes and starts hijacking me. So I shepherd those thoughts over. But here's the thing. I am fully present here for you, totally energized, because all the scared 10% sheep, I treat them like scared sheep, are over in the field right now, playing and waiting for some attention. But here's the thing. The reason they wake you up, those thoughts, the reason they come and see you at 9 o'clock at night when you go to bed, I hope, is because you gave them no airtime. You gave no time. You gave no energy and no light to those thoughts during the day. So when else are they supposed to come and hijack you? But at night when you're trying to sleep. So at lunch, I make a beautiful lunch. If I'm on the road, I take the time. And I sit in the sun in the light of day with my serotonin high, and I bring all the scared sheep to lunch with me. Phone in the other room. And I look at each scared thought that comes to me in my lunch, and I look right at it. And I say, okay. And something amazing happens. When you look at your 10% thoughts and you train your brain to put the thoughts over so you can be fully present where you are, you take the charge off those thoughts. We drink, drug, shop, gamble, Facebook our problems away. We don't want to look at the thoughts. People say, I can't be alone with my thoughts. My God, that's the most perfect place to start in your healing journey. Then I fully present, put them back into the field, and they kind of limp back. And then I come to my job and I'm fully present here for you. But I've got to give my thoughts one more time. Other than drive home or right after supper, I bring them back out and say, you're not going to sabotage my sleep. So what else am I thinking about before I go to bed? So when I lay down, I say to my brain, no way, you're not hijacking sleep. I already dealt with you guys twice today. But then here's the key. December 30th, my favorite day every year, coming soon. I write in a journal every Saturday morning, kind of the recurring thoughts that came to me every single day. And then on December 30th, I take out that journal and I look at the recurring thought. And I realize the recurring negative, fearful thoughts are actually something I need to heal. So I create a theme for the next year, not a New Year's resolution, but a highly ingrained theme. I create a theme for the next year to heal. Now, I like to pick a theme that is one word or two words that I can weave into every area of my life. Let me give you some quick examples. The winter of 2021, I wrote my woman's book, and the next year my theme was worthiness, because writing about trauma was tough. So the theme was worthiness. Now, every year my theme gets a ring, a watch, a bracelet, a keychain, something to remind me of my theme. That year, rose quartz colored ring. I wore that every day, looking at what I'm about to do, it was going to make me worthier. 2023 was show up, one of the hardest years of my life. I had to show up for. My assistant of 30 years passed away. Mental health in the house was rough. So I looked at a showy ring every day. Last year, my theme was grow, because I had to grow up and out of a couple of years of poo. And this year, my theme is well-being, capital BEING. I want to be a more well human at the end of the year than I was at the start of the year. And I can tell you for absolute sure, this is the best I've ever felt in my life. And I aspire to feel 20 years younger than I am. Not look, that's a lot of work and a lot of money, but feel. So I question every day, is what I'm about to do, eat, read, watch, is it going to make me a well-being? Because healthy staff absolutely provide great service. So how about you? How about during this Christmas season, one of the psychological safety things we could do in avoiding our toxic family, for sure, is look in the mirror, spend a little time, take a tea by the tree and just sit and say, what could my theme for next year be? What is the greatest thing I need to heal? And if you don't know, ask the people that you love. They will tell you. What is the greatest thing I need to heal? Could I create a word, buy a ring, a watch, a keychain to remind me of that theme? Take all the apps off your phone, but a podcast app, and put in that podcast app search engine the name of your theme search line and download podcasts to listen to all year as you drive home and back from work to be a better human being. Change my life. Because when employers say to me, we have morale issues, not you, you're great. But when employers hire me and say we have morale issues, I say, I don't even need to get to the event. And I can tell you, your morale issues probably weigh in at about 10%. And before I even meet those that are part of your morale issue group, I can tell you for absolute sure there are people who need to heal. Because depleted people deplete people. And people who have never learned at any dinner table ever or any belief system that it was important to take care of the person in the mirror, they come to work depleted and cause a ripple of depletion. We have a choice on how we see our life. Life is spectacularly hard. But on the other side of healing, it's spectacularly beautiful. And you know, my favorite podcaster is Gabby Bernstein. And you know what she says? You can become part of the healing solution, or you can become part of the problem. So what are we? When I walked out of City Hall yesterday, it's a little chilly yesterday, eh? I walked out of City Hall yesterday and I walked out with 5 different people who are complaining about the weather and complaining about their job, complaining and complaining. So the one woman looks over at me, 5 strangers, and says, "Oh, can you handle this cold?" And I said, "Well, no malaria." And the other woman shouted and said, "Hey, no floods." And the other one shouted and said, "No hurricanes." And the other one said, "I have a job." And the other one said, "I get to walk out of this building." And we started this incredible rampage of all the 90%. And when it was over, they walked away and said to me, "Thanks, sister. Thanks for reminding me that there is good." Then and only then can you, healed, rested, nourished, taking care of you, come to work and create culture. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you show up in your job. You value excellence. You value excellence. Awesome. Let's talk about that. Because seeing our job through a 90% lens, the what is good, what you can control, and what you like in a highly transformative year is the goal for excellence. And I really hope that you are super proud of what you do. Your mission to protect Saskatchewan workers, that's pretty admirable work. And do you see it through the lens of 90%? I had to write a few things down. Phil and Kevin, you talk so much about growth, so many incredible things. I sat back thinking, what? On an international scale, congratulations, like so much growth, so much good there, business transformation. Here's some 90%. You survived 2023. I was there and you survived it. You survived Go Live. I kept asking Raquel and Lisa, how did it go? How did it go? And you survived it. You survived all this transformation. You're learning something new and exciting. Maybe you don't know it all, but you will again. Some of you have been with WCB so long, this is not your first rodeo in change. But do you see it through the lens of 90%? All that's good. And if not, why? Do you see your job through the 10%? Do you only focus on the 10%, what you don't like, what isn't good? Oh, I loved what you said, Stuart, about being hot fix. I'm going to have to adopt that. Hot fixes. You did a hot fix on your 10%. The turbulence, Stuart, you recommended was so great because, of course, we have 10%. But why do we show up, some of us, with our magnifying glass in the 10%, 90%, and some show up at work with the 10%? I go to staff training every week. People come in the room, they don't want to be there. And they're rude to me. They don't want to be part of the training room. How you felt about signing on to town hall today tells me exactly where you're at. Because if you came today feeling grateful, blessed, and honored and privileged to have such an important job, to have an SLT team that spends time giving you these updates, giving you Q&A and caring about you, doesn't happen everywhere else. Let me tell you. But how do we form these belief systems around how we show up at work? If the workplace owes us something, if we're entitled, or do we show up grateful, blessed, and honored? I went to a nurses conference. 250 nurses came to hear me speak. Now, some of you know, I've worked with you before. I like to interview a cross section of every audience I ever speak to. So that day, I interviewed the nurses. In the morning, a happy nurse emails me. In the afternoon, an unhappy nurse. So when I got to the event, I met them. These nurses graduated from nursing school together 25 years ago. They work in the same area of the hospital, get paid the same money, work the same number of hours in a week, but one nurse is happy and one nurse is not. So I've spent my entire career wondering what separates the grateful to be here and the, we got to go to this stupid thing. And here's what I've learned. I've learned that no matter how much culture is in place, how much infrastructure is in place to support people, if people have a belief system that they come to work with their magnifying glass in the 10%, it ripples to affect everything we do. So I've learned that if you grew up at a dinner table of people who loved their job, you learned a belief system, consciously or subconsciously, every night you ate dinner with those happy parents, parent or guardian. And these happy parents, parent or guardian are actually the ones that you also sat with and learned about self-care from. So the same people that taught you how to treat yourself are the same people that taught you about what work ethic should represent to you in your life. When I asked my nurses that day, how many of your mothers and fathers were nurses growing up, you would have been amazed how many people put up their hand. However, if you grew up with half-empty, half-baked people who did not enjoy their job, and maybe you even scattered when your father came home from work because you knew he'd be tired and depleted, then I believe you ate your little dinner as a child, and as you overheard the dinner table conversation of depleted, unregulated, unnourished, unhappy human beings, that you overheard them complain and you thought, oh, it's normal to not enjoy your job. And in this divisive, polarized world we live in, do we need more negativity, or do we need to be part of the healing solution? So if you overheard your parents talk negatively about your work, maybe you learned that it's normal to complain about your job. I know people who raise their children to believe they should get a good government job, because then you can go to the place for 30 years, and in 30 years you'll escape the place and you'll get a watch and then you'll be happy. I know people who've been wearing their watch for 7 years and they're still the unhappiest people that I've ever met. So where did you grow up? Does it mirror to you how proud you are of the billboard that you are for WCB? Because if you value excellence, you know how you show that value? By how you arrive at work every day. If I had time, I'd love to walk you through your entire day of work too. What did you listen to on the drive? Did you listen to something that makes you a better human being? What's the first thing you did when you arrived at your workplace? Did you say good morning? Did you say hello? Are you kind? Are you cute? What does your workstation look like? Is it positive, or do you have the I hate Mondays with a cat hanging upside down poster? What message are you sending the world about excellence? And then how do you go through, what do you think about your job? Do you think about your job as being part of the solution or part of the problem? And then when you go out into your community in Regina and Saskatoon and you go out, you are literal in your work safe van, you're actually walking billboards for what you do. How proud are you of how the excellence value is lived out in the Tim Hortons drive-through? How proud of you that everywhere you go for lunch, people see your value in action. Because we motivational speakers, we are living billboards for what we do. I'm not some unhinged weirdo at the grocery store on Saturday. I live and breathe what I preach. How about you? Do you have enough 90% meetings? Do you bookend everything you do with let's talk about what's great and then let's end with what's great? What are you excited about? Or are we constantly meeting over the 10%? Jay Shetty, one of my other favorite podcasters, had a great idea. Get a jar, put it in the middle of the staff room, and every time you have a win and something amazing happen, write it on a piece of paper, put it in that jar. Quarterly, meet, go somewhere great, bring in pizza, sit in the staff room, and everybody pull out that great win slip of paper. Wouldn't that be amazing? Because you need to be darn proud of what you've accomplished with all this transformation. Are we? Because of course you have 10. We all have 10. I have 10% every week. I'm a motivational speaker who travels every single week. I ran a tuxedo rental company 15 years. I had so many uncontrollable 10%. When they wouldn't let me put my tuxedos in the local bridal wedding trade show, I started my own bridal show. For 30 years, I ran a bridal show with 1,500 to 1,800 women attending in one day. Of course, we had 10%. But if that's all I saw, that would have affected the vibe for which I showed up, because I can tell you as an entrepreneur, my business meets me exactly where I'm at. And when I speak to entrepreneurs, I say, I don't think that you need to work that hard on your strategy and your plan, as hard as you need to work on showing up the raving example of excellence every single day. That transforms culture. Be the example. I have 10% every week. Lost luggage, canceled flights, storm stays. I've been billeted. I have stayed in prairie motels with signs on the wall that read, "Don't let your hunting dogs on the beds." Oh my God. I have slept in my van. If you've ever seen the Chris Farley skit on Saturday Night Live, the motivational speaker in the van by the river, I had a shooter in the airport 5 years ago that is the opening story in my women's book. And I can tell you something for sure. I slayed fear that day. But when I get home and my friends and family say, "How was your trip?" Do you know what I say? It was awesome. Because they don't care. They love and support me, but blah, blah, blah. It's important to talk about how you feel. It's important to really understand the impact, the 10% that you have faced over the last 2 years with all this transformative change. It's important to talk about how you feel. It's important to feel what you feel. Don't drown it, drug it, but complain 3 times and then lay that sucker out. And then have a solution meeting. Because talking about the same thing over and over again will zap morale like nothing else. So how are you doing? When you look at the person in the mirror, do you see yourself through the lens of 90%? Are you kind to yourself? Are you compassionate and understanding? Or do we see ourselves through a 10% lens that continues to sabotage? And then when you come to your job, do you see your job through this lens of what you're grateful, blessed, and honored and privileged to have? Or do you see your lens through job through a 10% lens? And all we do is sit around talking about the things we can't control. Because again, nothing will zap excellence. Nothing will ripple out to affect other people more. Because if all you see is the 10, it makes you old and tired, and maybe even young and tired. And then that ripples out to your coworkers. Because don't you work with people? You just want to say, "Why don't you go home?" And then that ripples out to your customer. You don't think we know? We know. You know, I meet waitresses and serving staff on the road. Have you ever been served by a serving staff, a waitress in a restaurant that clearly should not be waiting a table? I've eaten 1,000 communities, and I can tell you for sure, if I took her for a coffee after work and said, "So is this what you want to do with your life?" she'd say no. Because if our 10% list isn't longer than our 90% list, it affects us, who we work with, who we serve, and then it affects who we go home to. And if you have children like me, grown children now, but you sit at the dinner table and you complain about your job every night, that affects their belief systems on what work will represent to them in their life. It's never too late. So are you part of the healing solution, or are we part of the problem? Let's talk about our coworkers. So I want to take this one magnifying glass idea, put it in front of the person in the mirror. Look at your job. Look at what we are grateful for. And look what we're complaining about. When I run into my motivational speaker friends in the airport, which I do all the time, and they say, "You're getting tired of the travel, or you're getting tired of the airplanes," I always say, "Frank, we knew. Why would I come to a job that I knew what my 10% were and then complain about it? Because then I sound like my mother." So have a really good, if you don't know what you sound like, push record on your next Zoom call. Play it back. Push record as you're on the phone. How do you sound? Do we sound like somebody who is valuing excellence? Let's talk about our coworkers. So I also have a leadership book called Kind Leadership. Lead the 90%, Kind Leadership. Because, thumbs up for me, please. Actually, let's heart this one. Can I see a heart if you think kindness is important? I think kindness is the most important thing in the world. Thank you. My favorite quote in the world is, "Be the change you want to see in the world." Do you know what I want to see? I want to see people treat each other more kindly. And you know where it begins? By treating yourself more kindly. You talked, Trevor, about respect in your presentation this morning. I know that you value respect and collaboration. I agree fully. We are not going to be able to do any of this if you don't respect yourself and you don't respect the people that you work with. Agreed. So the Kind Leadership book is based on what it's been like to be invited, as I was today by Raquel and Lisa, to be invited by leaders of an organization every week for 32 years, every imaginable industry I have worked in. So what I did is I kept track of what made the greatest great, and the greatest I met were kind. And I interviewed the top 20 leaders I've ever worked with in my life. And if you don't think kindness is important, can I see a thumbs up here Have any of you ever worked for somebody unkind? Can you give me a thumbs up if you've ever worked for somebody unkind? Yeah. Isn't that the worst? It is the absolute worst. Thank you so much. It's the worst. So my mission, I have many missions in this life, but I'll tell you, my mission is to remind people that kindness is the most important thing in the world. So to see your coworkers through a kind lens is the 90% lens. Kindness, empathy, understanding, what connects me to another person, what unites me to another person is the 90% lens. Because 90% of the people you work with are incredible human beings. And we don't celebrate that enough. We spend so much time focusing on the 10%, but what about all the great people you work with that have come on this transformation journey with you and you're so incredibly proud of them? Go be kind to them. Again, I ask, do you say good morning? Please do not ask another human being alive, how are you, unless you have intentional, purposeful time to spend with them. When a leader hires me, I'm an energy person, so I immediately read their energy. And I honestly don't understand how some people don't realize how the unhealed in you shows up everywhere that you go. If you're not healing the person in the mirror, you're just going through the motions at work. And then when you try to connect with other people, your energy shows your wounds and they come through in the narcissism, the need to be right, the rule over, and the rude. So how do we heal a morale? How do we heal morale and have respect and collaboration? By healing the person in the mirror, showing up in a job that we love. Every week I sit next to a person on an airplane who will ask me this, what do you do? Isn't that weird? If people ask more about what you do than who you are, and I always say the same thing. Well, nobody wants to sit with me, number one. No one wants to sit with a motivational speaker. But I say to my passenger every week, I have a dream job. And do you know what they say? Wow, you don't hear that very often. So my mission is to take such ruthless care of me, every day asking what I need, that I can come to this job in this high vibe place, that I can serve from the place of 90%. And then I go out into the world and see people through this kind lens, and it's so much easier for me because I understand with compassion and empathy that everyone has a story. Don't you all have a story? Give me a thumbs up if you think you have a really good story. Everyone has a story. Everybody comes from something, but don't sit with me on the airplane if you see me in the airport because I'll unpack the story that you tell. Everybody has a story, but the question I would ask you on the plane is, what did you do with your story? Because it's rippling to affect everyone around you. So seeing people through a kind lens, I am following the nuance of every leader who ever hires me. I watch for the wording. I was so impressed by how everyone in this SLT team this morning said, next slide, please. I look for the please and thank yous, the common courtesies they extend to me in their email trail. I look at the profile picture. Are you smiling? Do you look friendly? I read your voicemail. Do you sound friendly on your voicemail? Do you have a bio that is all about your credentials, or do you write about something that you love? How about you? As you walk through your workday, what do you look and sound like? How do you think your coworkers would say that you treat them? I look for opportunities to be kind every day of my life. I leave a Tim's card in every hotel room for everyone who's ever cleaned my room. I call every hotel manager every week in a hotel I stay in, and I tell them they're amazing, and they tear up 90% of the time. I even call DoorDash, the restaurant, after I order DoorDash and tell them what a great meal they've made. Try that. They go into this paralyzed fear that you're not going to like it. Look for opportunities to be kind. Part of the healing solution or part of the problem. It doesn't mean you don't work with 10% people, but I guarantee you they have a story. I go to Northern Alberta. I work in the college. I interview the college, and I learned that they will have a 10% woman there that day named Diane, and they nicknamed her the Bee. I don't know if you know what the B stands for, rhymes with bitch, isn't positive, but I was so alarmed by this. So I couldn't wait to meet her. I heard stories, me a stranger, as I prepared for this college event, about how this woman, Diane, comes in her office every morning, goes right into her office, doesn't come for the special coffees, doesn't come for the Christmas party. So I couldn't wait to meet her because I knew for absolute sure she would have a story to go with the behavior. So I met Diane. Diane told me her story. She told me that she wakes up in the morning next to a man who's been passed out drunk for 10 years, walks down the hall to a 17-year-old daughter's bedroom who's in with the wrong crowd. She told me she walks by her dinner table every morning and she remembers where she grew up because she is her mom. She told me how she comes into work and she just hides because her work is the only place in her whole life she does something right. She doesn't come for coffee because everyone sits around coffee with their college lanyard and their college logo on their t-shirt and they complain about their job in front of everybody in earshot. She told me how she never goes to the lunch on Friday because the women go to BP and complain about their husbands. And she wants to say to them, you think socks on the floor and a toilet seat up is a marriage problem? I want to tell them to come home with me for a week. And Diane said to me, Darci, how could I go to a Christmas party with my heap of a husband? I think about Diane every week. So I went back to Diane's group and I said, what if? What if part of the solution was we saw each other through a 90% lens, this respect and collaboration lens, and we didn't judge, label, and gossip until we were so absolutely perfect that we could talk about somebody else behind their back. And then I flew home. A week later, I get an email from their leader and the subject line reads, we heard you. And their leader told me how much that had changed them. How on Tuesday when they went for coffee, Diane didn't come, but they changed the conversation around what they loved about their job. And then when they went for lunch on Friday, Diane didn't come, but they sat around talking about their husbands and partners in a way that was more loving. And then they packed up the most beautiful lunch on the menu and brought it back to Diane's desk with a note that said, even though you think I don't care about you, it's just that I've done a profoundly terrible job of showing you what a rested, nourished woman looks like. And their leader said to me, Darci, something amazing is happening. Diane is changing. And I emailed her back and I said, oh, no, she's not. You are. Because if you could change unhappy people, I'd be in the Bahamas right now giving you a virtual event from my beach home. And I'd be sought after by everybody who would say, will you come to work and make the unhappy happy? Oh, that would be amazing. But here's what I've learned about the Dianes and Daves of the world. They have to want to change. Do they have an accountability? Yeah, look at, you're going to have these even more integrated EAP programs, EFAP programs to support you mentally and physically. That's amazing. But I've learned that she has to be ready to do that. So I've decided I'm going to love her anyway. Is she easy to love? Oh, no. Is she easy to be in family with? The worst. Is she easy to be in the house with? Even harder. But I'm going to get myself to the place of love so high vibe that I'm going to love me enough to be able to show up for her in a loving way. That changes culture. Let's talk about your employers. Let's talk about your injured workers. So here's what I can only imagine. I can only imagine what your day must be like. But do we celebrate enough? The 90%. I know Jennifer and Kevin, you both talked about your customers and your vision to really do what you're doing in this province is pretty incredible. And I'm sure 90% of the employers that you work with, I'm hoping that's about the right percentage, are great. And 90% of the injured workers are great. But I'm guessing there's going to be some 10%. I'm sure you have some customers that you wonder, how do you possibly run your business this way? I'm sure you have some business owners that you're like, some employers that you're like, okay, wait, how could you possibly run your business from this 10% place? And I'm sure you have some injured workers that take advantage of this situation, but most of them I'm sure are pretty good. I have this optimistic view of the world that people are good and they go out into the world and do the best that they can. So who do we focus on? Our 90%, do we ever thank them enough? Do we go to those employers who do everything you ask them to do and they are amazing? And do you thank them enough? Or are we spending so much time trying to put out fires for 10% that we don't take the time to thank people? I think we need to do more of that. I rented tuxedos for 13 years, as I said, from 18 to almost 31, 100 customers a day. I would have a rude groom on the happiest day of his life. He's standing next to his bride partner and he's being rude to me in my store. This unregulated, unnourished, unhinged narcissist is standing in my store yelling at me in front of his future bride partner. You do know what I wanted to say to his bride partner, don't you? Run. So here's what I learned about this 10%. I learned that his friends would be rude to me too. Misery loves company. Your friends are a perfect mirror of where you're at in your personal development journey. If you change and grow and create a theme that every year enables you to heal a little bit more, you will lose some friends. You'll lose the drink, drug, shop, gamble, Facebook friends. You will lose some because people don't want to grow with you. But his friends would be rude to me too. His father would be rude to me. Do you ever have an employer in a family business and the children treat you the same as the mom and dad? It's a belief system. The belief system they learn at their dinner table about how to treat themselves, how to show up in a job, and how to treat people around you. They learn from that belief system dinner table. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right? So I learned that this guy didn't like the limo, the flowers, he didn't like the hotel. So why am I owning a piece of this 10% person? Why? This unregulated human. So if you were rude to me in my tuxedo business, I just made your pants a little bit itchy for your wedding and I sent you on your way. I didn't do that much, but I protected I'm a super kind lady, but I am not a doormat. I've healed this woman and through so much codependency and enabling that I am not someone you will walk over. I'm kind, but if you're not kind to me, I will not allow that. So when I would rally my team at the end of a sales day, I'd say, today was an awesome day. I had 250 thank you cards and wedding pictures on the wall and pies and jam and sauerkraut, and my clients were amazing. I told my team, don't go home and think about this guy who walked through your mind with dirty feet. Go home and think about the people you served that were so amazing. Sure, talk about them later. Sure, unpack it on the walk with your spouse partner, but don't make it the first thing you talk about when you come home at the end of the day, because then they win. And these people have this powerful ability to go out through our communities and with their unregulated behavior, mistreat everyone around them. Not okay. If I do nothing else, I want to remind people there will always be unhappy people around us. Who do we focus on? Who do we surround ourselves with? And then I became a speaker and you didn't like me. And 30,000 people a year are entitled to give their opinion and tell me what they think of me. Wow. Just because you're entitled doesn't mean that everybody needs it. So I go to Vancouver, still my favorite evaluation form. I go to Vancouver, 250 women came to see me speak at a women's conference. We rip it up at those women's conferences. At the bottom of the pile of 250 evaluation forms, this is what one woman wrote to me. She wrote, "You sucked and your hair is too big." God, still my favorite evaluation form. I want to email this woman and say, you think this is big hair? You should have seen this show in 1987. I want to email her and say, who's your mom? And what did she teach you? Was she regulated enough to teach you that women love and support each other? My husband walks in the office. He goes, oh my God, what's the matter with you? I said, read this thing. He reads it, laughs on the floor for 15 minutes. He said, what do those say? I said, they're 249. Great. He said, hun, two things. 1 out of 250 is not 10%. You don't have to figure that out. And number two, he said, no matter what happens on any stage, virtually or live, we love you the same. Now, my husband's only right 90% of the time, but he's right. What I do here, I love. I love my job so much. If the day I push my snooze bar 15 times and I say I have to do this virtual event is the day that I will get a new job. Well, I do what I love, but this is my job. This is not my life. And I have protected and preserved so much of me over the years to make sure that what I do is not where I fully get my self-esteem from, because if it was where I fully got my self-esteem from, I would never come home. Why would I leave a hotel room and standing ovations and signing books to come home and make dinner for everybody? Because what I do on the other side of this life has to mean more to me than what I do here with you today. So let's talk about that in our last 5 minutes. Let's talk about going home to our families, to our personal family life. This is where we need to get very serious about whether or not life on the other side of your workday is the place where you can rest and recover and renew yourself from this very difficult year, 2 years that you've had in this transformation. What would your family say if I went home and had dinner with the people that you love tonight? And what if I asked them how they think you have handled this transformation? Because difficult 10% times reveal our true selves. but it is never too late. So how do you arrive at the end of the day? Let's talk about that. 25 years ago when our daughter was born, my husband quit his job. We traveled as a family. When our children went back into school, we traveled as a family while I would speak. And when our children went back into school 20 years ago, I scaled back to one night a week. So for my entire career, I've been gone one night a week. And my husband digs in and looks after life. And he doesn't do it like I do it. I have a standard and a way of doing it. And I like order and clean, and he doesn't care. So I had to learn very early, coming home every week, to make sure I saw what was good. Because we need to let the people around us that we love know that they're good. We can't take them for granted. So I created a doorknob theory that I've been using for 25 years, and my belief that I put my hand on the door and I do not come in the door until I'm positive. But I have spent my entire drive, my entire flight, my entire commute home thinking about positive things. I have gone through my day in my head and I have sorted through all the great things that happened. And I promised that later on I would deal with the feelings of what I thought didn't go well. I don't listen to negativity. I listen to positive things, frequencies. I listen to podcasts, something that's going to put me in a good headspace. And then I put my hand on the door and I don't come in the door until I'm positive. And sometimes I'm outside for like half an hour. But I breathe and I think about my 90%. My husband's a motivational speaker too, as I know some of you know. And my husband has spent half of our marriage in a depression journey. And my husband every single day does something mentally, physically, or spiritually, not happy hour, to heal the man in the mirror. And I'm so grateful for that. I have 2 adult children that give me every gray hair popping out of the top of my head, but I am able to support them in every conceivable way. I live in a 50-year-old middle-class suburbia house. My friends say, why don't you buy a bigger house? I say, because I can't clean this thing. And what I live in is a palace compared to what I grew up with my dad, with so many mice in the basement. We kept them as pets. I have a car with a heated seat and steering wheel. I voice note book chapters. Do you know I grew up in a 65 Volkswagen van with my dad with plywood bunk beds? For that, I am grateful. My mom died at 59 years old on her computer at work. And do you know what the poster in my mom's office read? If you think money's everything, you've never been sick. I woke up this morning with enough health. I am not injured. I have a job. I live in this house and in this country. And then I feel that 90%. Then I come in the door and I'm much nicer, because you ever know, so first 10 minutes set the tone for the evening. You come in guns blazing, everybody scattered. I stopped doing that. And then I yell at them later, but at least they're happy I'm home now. Ugh, fun's over. She's home. Never too late. It is never too late to put a magnifying glass in front of you and ask the person in the mirror, what do you need? It is never too late to come to work and be more grateful for what you have. It is never too late to be kinder to the people around you and to have more compassion and understanding for other people, because you have compassion and understanding and respect for yourself. And it is never too late to go home and tell your family that we're going to create an annual theme next year and we're going to heal this family, so that in the evenings I'm out from behind screens and I am healing the woman in the mirror instead. WCB, I am so grateful to be back with you in my own province, in my home office. Thank you so much for inviting me back. I'm grateful for that. Have a beautiful rest of the week and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. And please email me. You've got my QR code. Email me in the new year and let me know what your theme is. And follow me. I post every single day. And if you follow me, you'll know what my theme is for next year. It's going to be incredible. I'm giving you 52 weeks of my theme next year. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, and thank you, Darci, again, for just reminding us how important it is to, get the right perspective on life. Looking at all the good things that we have, it's so easy to kind of go down the negative rabbit hole. And sometimes we just need those reminders that we've got more good in our life than not, and focusing on the right things can help us just keep moving forward. So thank you so much for sharing your messages with us, your positivity, your enthusiasm, the odd slap across the back of the head and the kick in the butt that we sometimes need. So genuinely appreciate you spending time with us. Thank you very much. So So with that, this kind of brings us to a close, but we do have a participation poll here. So if you'd like, encouraging you to please take a few seconds, complete the form, provide us some feedback. We genuinely appreciate it. We're always trying to figure out not only how do we provide you with information and update across this big, beautiful organization, because there's many things happening and hard for us to always keep up with what's going across the many teams and many projects and many initiatives. But also, you know, we want to make sure that as we get together, we have a little bit of fun, a little bit of learning, and just try and make it an overall positive experience for you. So thanks, everyone. Take care. Happy holidays.